It's time for ROTD Weekend. We are well and truly in pumpkin pie spice season, and I have something to say. And that something is we need more of it. Now, I don't mean more pumpkin pie spice things. I think that trend is a little bit crazy. In fact, even that I'm talking about it right now makes me feel a little bit weird because it's like, oh my gosh, too much pumpkin pie spice talk out there, you know? Oh, and forgive me, I'm sure you've noticed I seem to have a cold, but I am carrying on and I am talking about pumpkin pie spice, even if I can't really smell it today. So yeah, I was slow to jump on the pumpkin pie spice bandwagon in terms of having a container of something specific called pumpkin pie spice. I always, when making things that were pumpkin flavored or things that this season, that kind of cinnamon, clove, nutmeg mixture, I would just cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, allspice. I have them. I just grab them and use them in the amounts that it's called for in the recipe or that I want to use them. And I didn't need this separate bottle that was just a combination of those. But then this year I was making a little bit more of those sorts of things than normal, mostly because I did some pumpkin muffins that my kids liked so much that my son then wanted to do some to take to school for his homeroom. And then I did a batch for another event. And so I'm pulling out all those jars all the time. And I was like, you know what? I actually see how a jar of pumpkin pie spice might be handier if you're doing a lot of this, right? So I do have a pumpkin pie spice blend on the cookful.com. It's in that spice section I've told you about where all the different spice blends are. And now I have a jar in my pantry labeled pumpkin pie spice in my handwriting, and I've been using it. And what I think is that a lot of recipes don't call for enough of it. If you've ever heard me talk about pumpkin pie, you know that I feel this way about pumpkin pie for sure. Your pumpkin pie, in my opinion, shouldn't really be orange as much as starting to be a brown color, and that's because of how much spice is in there. So I'm looking at my own pumpkin pie recipe, which is also on the Cookful, and it calls for 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a half teaspoon of ground ginger, a quarter teaspoon of cloves, and a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, which together is 3 teaspoons of spice. But if I go and look at, for instance, just like at random, the Pillsbury pumpkin pie recipe, it only calls for 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, half as spicy. That's going to be an orange colored pie for sure. And I'm feeling that way about those pumpkin muffins I was telling you about. I made the first batch. They were good. My kids liked them, but they didn't have that like intense, it is fall, these are spicy kind of flavor going on. You know what I mean? And so what I am saying is not so much that we need more pumpkin pie spice things in the world, because I think that Starbucks, etc., and everyone has a handle on that. But I think when we do use pumpkin pie spice, we need to use more of it. No more orange pies, right? On the topic of spiciness, although a different kind, today's guest is from the blog Thai Caliente, Renee Fuentes. On Thai Caliente, Renee shares delicious Thai and Mexican recipes, and she is here today to talk about that particular blend and to share a delicious surprise recipe with us. Let's listen to my conversation with Renee Fuentes from Thai Caliente. Renee Fuentes, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Christine.
It is so great to speak with you. I love your website and the concept behind it. Can you tell people what it's called and how it started, why it's called what it's called, all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website blog is called Thai Caliente, and I share Thai recipes and Mexican recipes from my family. So I am personally half Thai, half white, and my husband is from Mexico. So I purely started as a way to preserve our family's recipes. I'm an only child, so I really wanted to make sure that all of my mom's Thai recipes were, my kids could make them, their grandkids could make them because she's an amazing cook. And my mother-in-law is also a phenomenal cook, and no one else in my husband's family really cooks. So I decided to take it upon myself to learn all of her authentic Mexican recipes, and hence the name Thai Caliente was born. So that's how I came about it.
I love it. That is so wonderful. It's just like it's fusion together in a way that is just like how families are, but like uniquely yours, right? So I want to know if the kinds of, I guess this applies to both the Mexican and the Thai recipes. I was heading in one direction, but now I'm thinking it's probably both. If the sorts of like Americanized versions are similar to what you're learning from or what you've learned from your mom and your mother-in-law, or if they're really different. Like, do you sense this like, oh, that's not what you get in Thai restaurants, but that's what my mom makes, or that's not what you get in Mexican restaurants, but that's what my mother-in-law makes? Do you have that?
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of feel like the word authentic is very biased
Mhm.
because even like my mom growing up in Thailand, like if you grew up, she's from Bangkok, but if you grew up in northern Thailand, the food and the flavors can be very different, even if it's the same type of recipe. So I try to be careful when I use the word authentic because, it can mean different meanings to wherever part of the country you're from.
Mhm.
Same thing with Mexican food. I will say that I've noticed from both of my mom and my mother-in-law, since they do live in the US now, like they have customized their recipes to make it with the available ingredients here. Because obviously there's some ingredients that are really hard to find that, are more prominent in those regions.
Mhm.
So yeah, some of their recipes, they've kind of been like, well, you know what? Normally you're supposed to do it this way, but we're just going to use a store-bought blah, blah, blah shortcut.
Do you have an example? I would love to know.
Yeah. So in Thailand, growing up, my mom, she learned how to make curry from scratch. So you pound all the ingredients, all the aromatics, and it forms a paste. It's kind of a tedious process, but if you have all the herbs and aromatics, it comes together pretty quickly.
Mhm.
But since moving to the States, she's like, you can buy pre-made curry paste for under $5 and it's ready in like, 10 minutes. So stuff like that, where it's not necessarily, a shortcut, but you're still kind of, adapting to what's available here. Same thing with the coconut milk. She would use like fresh coconuts and, take the coconut milk, but you can buy canned coconut milk here, that's just as good.
Mhm.
Obviously emphasizing quality ingredients. But yeah, things like that where they're like, yeah, we don't need to make it the hard way. We can just do the shortcut.
And so, and you're a mom now, and you're cooking for your family, and you're doing their recipes that you've learned from them, but sort of, I don't want to use the word modernized either, but like changed for what's
Yeah.
modernized, changed for what's
Yeah.
here. And then are you adapting them further? Like, do you think you're also like, and we are now turning this into a casserole, or
Absolutely.
like,
Yes. I mean, I'm a busy mom. My kids have a very busy sports schedule. So, yes, I will kind of adapt things to, I'll get some pre-cut vegetables that maybe aren't necessarily that I would normally use in a Thai dish. So, for example, like we're talking about curry, normally you wouldn't put like carrots and broccoli in Thai curry, but
Mhm.
I want to make sure whatever I'm feeding my family is nutritious and easy. So I'm just going to throw those in and call it a day.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. So
Yeah.
do you also, I can't remember if I saw anything like this, and I was looking at your site for quite a while, but I don't remember it. Do you do any like fusion? Is there ever like Thai where Thai and Mexican food come together?
I try to keep most of my recipes like just Thai recipes and just Mexican, but I mean, sometimes I do like get kind of curious to see how the flavors will, combine with each other. And surprisingly, I mean, the ingredients between the two cuisines are pretty similar.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff does work. I made a Thai shrimp curry taco. So it
Oh.
was like the shrimp with a little bit of curry sauce as, the seasoning, and then wrapped in a corn tortilla. We've also done like carne asada tacos, but we'll put like Thai papaya salad as like
Oh.
the garnish
That sounds
instead of like
delicious.
instead of a salsa. I didn't come up with that. My husband did because one day I had leftover papaya salad and he was making carne asada And he's like, we should put it on top and see how it tastes. And surprisingly, it tasted really good. So it's like you have similar flavors of like spice, acidity,
Hmm.
all the different herbs. So yeah, it goes well together. But I do try to keep, the Thai recipes separate and the Mexican
Uh,
recipes
uh,
separate.
on your website, even if sometimes you're
Right.
going crazy at home.
Right.
I like that. So what are some of your, like, I'm just thinking about, like, as a mom and recipe developer from these cultures with your kids there, what are some of their favorites of the things that you make that you learn from their grandmothers?
Oh, yeah, they have a few staples that they request all the time. So from my mother-in-law, they love sopa de fideo, which is like a Mexican like tomato soup with little vermicelli noodles. It's like a super simple, basic soup, but my husband ate it all the time growing up. So my mother-in-law makes it for my kids, and they could probably eat it every week if they wanted to.
I think kids and noodle soups, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so both of my kids and my nephew for sure, I don't remember, about my niece, love my mom's chicken noodle soup. And she could just make chicken noodle soup and they are happy all the time. And it's like noodles in liquid, slurping something, they just love it, right?
Yeah, so simple, but just so comforting.
Yeah, yeah. What about from the Thai side? Anything there?
Yes. So, it's actually more common like in northern Thailand, but like the Thai sticky rice. So not the dessert, but just the steamed plain sticky rice. My kids love to eat that with grilled pork skewers, which is called mu bing. You have to marinate the pork. It's kind of sweet, kind of salty,
Mm.
and then you eat it with like the warm sticky rice. And it's a pretty simple meal, but anytime we go visit my mom, that's what they request from her as
Oh,
well.
that's great. I love that. So,
Yeah.
Renee, have you brought a surprise recipe for me today?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
And I'm
what is it? I'm excited.
so it's an easy recipe and it's Thai chicken fried rice.
Ooh, fun.
So I know a lot of people, they're really familiar with Chinese fried rice. That's probably the most common type of fried rice, but the Thais have a little slightly different way of making fried rice, and that's what I'm going to share with you.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. That was going to be my first question. Is like, is it different from Chinese fried rice? And then, of course, my brain then goes through this whole like, is Chinese fried rice even really Chinese, or is it an American thing? Like, I'm like, oh, I don't even know what I'm asking now. Yeah, okay, so it's different.
Yes. I mean, obviously same concept, but just a little bit different ingredients.
Oh, okay, fun. Okay, where do you start when you're making this?
So, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about how it's different.
Okay.
So with Thai fried rice, we serve it with a condiment called pik nam pa,
Oh.
which is a spicy fish sauce. So I know that
Oh.
sounds like a little off-putting to some people, but I promise the umami from the fish sauce just goes so well with the fried rice. And it's more of a condiment, so you put it on after the rice is done cooking, right before you're serving it.
I've had fish sauce,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've used it in things. I don't love it by itself. Like, I love it in things. And actually, you probably do this too. I use it to add umami to like non-Asian food. Like if I'm making a stew and I'm like, oh, it's just missing, I'll be like, little dribble of fish sauce. Like that'll do it, you
Yeah.
know? But
Love
like,
that. Yeah.
but like to actually just have it. So now you're saying the spicy fish sauce, you're going to probably be able to taste it, like the condiment on there. Does it have that same potency, or is it getting like mixed in pretty thoroughly and disappears in that kind of way too?
So the condiment, the pig nam ba, we're actually going to be mixing it with equal parts of lime juice and then chop some Thai bird's eye chilies. So yes, you're going to get the punginess of the fish sauce, but then the acidity kind of also mellows it
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Again, it's not for everyone. I would suggest just starting off with maybe like a little drops just to kind of get used to it. But I mean, even as a kid, I loved eating it, on top of my fried rice. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that's just how I learned how to eat it. But obviously you can work your way into it.
It's probably, I know this is very, very different, but there's something about like, we often put just like soy sauce on white rice. And it's very, I know it's different, but that like salty umami soy sauce
Mm.
thing on the plain white rice, just like just makes it a whole new thing. Like it's delicious.
It does. Yeah, it really does. Yeah. So kind of the same concept.
Okay. Okay. So that's one of the main differences. Are there other differences?
Yeah. So Thai fried rice, we're going to add some sliced tomatoes while we're cooking the rice.
Oh.
So you don't typically see that in Chinese fried rice. So those are
Wonderful.
probably the two main differences, and the rest is pretty similar.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so where do you start when you're making this?
Yeah. So I always start by making the pig nam ba, which is the spicy fish sauce. Set that aside. And then this recipe, we're going to be using chicken. I prefer chicken thighs, but you can also do chicken breasts. We're going to slice it up really thin, and then we're going to marinate it. Oh, this is the other part that's a little bit different is we're using Golden Mountain soy sauce, which you can find it at most Asian stores. They even sell it on Amazon, but it's a popular Thai, it's a seasoning sauce, but it's just like a soy sauce. It just has a very different flavor from just your traditional Chinese soy sauce. But I've ran out of it before and substituted like low sodium soy sauce or, regular soy sauce, and it still works. But again, to have those more Thai flavors, the mountain soy sauce is what you're going to want.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I'm going to look for that for sure. So are you marinating the chicken in that?
Yep. So we're just going to slice the chicken, add maybe like a tablespoon of the soy sauce, mix it all together, and then just kind of set it aside while we prep the other ingredients.
Okay.
So we're going to dice up some onion. I prefer yellow onion because it kind of has that sweetness. Just again, more flavor profile. We're going to mince some garlic. And then we're going to slice some Roma tomatoes. I like to slice them long ways, lengthwise, just so because they do kind of get smaller once you start cooking them.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to be using some green onion. We're going to use both the white parts and the green parts and just kind of chop them up small and then set everything aside. So traditionally, fried rice, you'd want to cook it in a wok. I've since moved on to an induction stove, so I haven't really found a wok that I've been able to use.
Right.
So I've actually just been using a large stainless steel pan, which if you're not used to cooking on stainless, then it can be difficult. So if you're just kind of getting new to making fried rice, then definitely use like a large nonstick pan.
Yeah. So with the stainless pan, you could get a lot of sticking. Is that the idea? And how do you avoid it?
So it's all about technique, kind of get it really hot and then just kind of know when to add everything in. So that way, it doesn't start sticking to the pan. Eventually, once you start adding the rice, it can stick a little bit to the stainless, but just that constant movement of making fried rice helps. And then having all your ingredients prepped. So that way it's just adding it in super quick.
Gotcha. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Okay. So you've got everything ready and you've got your wok or your pan, and what happens next?
And I forgot to mention that fried rice is actually best with day-old refrigerated rice. So when you cook rice initially, it's still going to have a lot of that moisture and starch. And when you go to do a fried rice, you're kind of breaking all that down, and then it can kind of get kind of soggy. So I always recommend, cooking your rice even night before, day before. Once it cools down, put it in the refrigerator, and then you're going to have a much easier time making the fried rice.
Makes so much sense. Okay, so you've got cold rice in your fridge then.
Yes. You can make it the same day. I have noted that just don't add as much water if you're going to cook the rice the same day and then make the fried rice. So,
and would you recommend cooling it down? Like I've done something like I get a big pan and spread the cooked rice out of the pan, and then it's so like thin that it, you know what I mean? So it can cool off fairly quickly. Do you think it would help to have it cooled, or you think if you just use less water, you're good?
No, that's actually a really good tip. Because when the rice is still warm, it's more fragile. So cooling it down is going to kind of help it firm up. So I love that tip.
Okay, great. Okay, good. I will do that still.
Yeah. Okay, so we have cold rice. We have all of our ingredients prepped. Our chicken has been marinating for a little bit. So now we're going to add oil to the hot pan, large pan or wok. We're going to go ahead and cook the chicken until it's fully done and then remove it from the pan. And then we're going to add a little bit more oil, and I usually lower the heat because we're going to cook the onions and garlic, so you don't want them to burn too quickly. And then we're going to do the white parts of the green onion and saute that as well. And once those are kind of translucent, Now we're going to turn up the heat and add in 2 cups of the cooked rice. So for Thai fried rice, we traditionally use jasmine rice. It's
Mm.
just a little bit more fragrant, but you can use long grain rice, basmati rice, but I prefer to use jasmine rice.
It is.
So we're
It's really, it's nice and delicate too, right? Like it's the same long grain, but it's like, I want to say flaky. I don't know if that's the right word. I just feel like
yes, it's not as
it doesn't swoosh.
yeah,
It flakes.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I don't know, like it's lighter, I guess,
Hmm.
if that's
Hmm.
the proper word term. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
the same. I understand what you're saying.
I like jasmine rice too. It's very good.
Yeah, so we have the rice, and then we're just going to break it up. And then you're just going to kind of make a well in the center. So just push the rice out to the sides of the pan. And then you're going to crack an egg, whisk it, and then add it into the center of that well.
Okay.
And then I just kind of leave it for like 30 seconds just so the egg can start cooking. And then I usually use a fork or something and then just kind of start mixing the egg with the rice once it's kind
Ah.
of started to cook. So at this point, we're going to toss the rice together with the egg, and then we're going to add our soy sauce mixture, which is going to be that Golden Mountain soy sauce that I
Hmm.
told you earlier about, and then a little bit of oyster sauce.
Oh.
So oyster sauce is a little bit thicker. It has a little bit of sweetness to it. And then it also has that darker color that it's going to give the
Hmm.
rice.
Hmm.
So that's going to be the majority of our seasoning. And then once that's all combined with the rice, then we're going to turn off the heat and add in our sliced tomatoes and then the green parts of the green onion. Can save a little bit for garnish once the fried rice is done. And then we're going to add a dash of ground white pepper. So not black
Mm.
pepper, but white pepper. It's pretty common in most Asian cooking to use white pepper. It definitely kind of has a punch of flavor to it, but
Mhm.
it's more mellow than black pepper.
Yeah.
And then at this point, you just want to taste it and see if it needs any more seasoning or if it's good at that point.
And then it's done?
And then it's done. So now, to plate it so Thai style, they like to serve their fried rice with sliced cucumbers. So
Oh.
we'll do some sliced cucumbers on the side, and then you can garnish it with more green onion. And then of course that spicy fish sauce mixture that we talked about
Mm.
and that you just kind of drizzle on top. So you have the spiciness from the tignamba and then the coolness from the cucumbers. And then you have that warm umami chicken fried rice.
Oh, it
So
sounds so good. And you know what? You said chicken thighs at the beginning. And now I'm thinking, like, because they have the extra bit of fat and juiciness, like that is going into the dish as well, right? So you get that, like,
yep.
really, really warm, wonderful chicken flavor. And yeah, there's all of that. The spiciness and there's the acidity in the condiment, so many,
Right.
and a little sweetness in the oyster sauce. You're hitting like everything.
Yeah, it's a trifecta of flavors. And I mean, I feel like that really embodies Thai cuisine is just having all these different flavors in one bite.
And you know what? I love the fresh uncooked vegetable, like the cucumber, cold and fresh there, like you said, the green onion, the tomatoes mixed in right at the end. They're still going to have that. So it just like livens it all up with that crispy coldness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love it.
And there's other mixings that, you can do. Another popular fried rice option is actually crab fried rice, Thai
Oh,
crab fried rice. You
fun.
don't see it too often here, but in Thailand, that's actually pretty popular. So they just, instead of the chicken, they do the crab meat in the fried rice. So
Oh, that sounds delicious.
yeah, you can definitely customize it to what you prefer.
Love it. Well, Renee, thank you so much. This is such a delicious recipe. I can't wait to try it. Can you let people know where they can find you online, website, social media? Where is the best place to see all of your delicious Thai and Mexican recipes?
Absolutely. So my blog is thaicaliente.com, and that is actually all of my social media handles. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, and then I also have a YouTube channel as well, Thai Caliente. So I have a lot of my videos on that channel as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Renee.
Yeah, thank you, Christine.
I cannot wait to try that spicy fish sauce with the lime. So much so that I went to try it a few days ago and realized that my fish sauce bottle in my fridge was a little bit old. I don't use very much of it, like a little drop at a time, and it had been there for quite a while. And so it went into the garbage, and I have put it on my grocery list, and I am going to try it ASAP. Thank you so much, Renee, for such a great idea. Okay, everyone, go and find Renee on social media. She is Thai Caliente everywhere. Follow her and see all the delicious things she's making. As to the delicious things I am making, my kitchen is going to be busy this week. I am starting off photographing some mac and cheese cups. These are like baked mac and cheese that's baked in a muffin tin and hold their shape. And the reason I'm doing those is because it's something that I actually make for my kids. You know, they go to their dad's every second week and then they come back here on the second Friday. And I like to have like a fully stocked fridge and lots of snacks and grab and go treats and things for them when they get here so that they could just relax for the weekend, and there's just lots of tasty things, right? And mac and cheese cups is one of the new things that I've been making for them, and I thought it was time that I actually wrote down what I was doing and then photographed them so others can do it too. So I'm doing that this week. I'm also doing another round of air fryer butternut squash, and that is because the recipe that I did before that I tested and photographed and everything else, I had the cubed butternut squash, which is super handy if you buy it from the grocery store already cubed, like you can. And I also have instructions in that recipe, which is not out yet, but it will be soon, for frozen butternut squash, because you can buy cubed frozen butternut squash and you can cook that in the air fryer as well. It's not as good, but it cooks up, and then you have your side dish just like they're cooking away in the air fryer, right? So that's what I did before. This time I want to start with a whole butternut squash and see if I can cook like a half of it. I don't think the whole half is going to fit in there. So maybe like a third of it in there at a time, kind of like whole, maybe even with the peel on. That is how I do it in the oven, like roasted in the oven. And I also do it in the microwave like that. So if you want like mashed butternut squash with a little bit of a roasted sort of flavor, can you do that in the air fryer? That is what I'm trying this week. And then I am playing around with cocktail sauce. My cocktail sauce recipe on Cook the Story and my shrimp cocktail recipe actually are both like crazy viral. I don't know if that's the right word for it. They show up very high in search results on Google. If you search for like how to make shrimp cocktail, I'm often first or second. Oh, yeah, I just checked, and it's the first picture right now and then the second listing on Google. And that just means that thousands and thousands of people come to it and then they share it also. But they also leave questions and comments. And recently, somebody commented that they want to make cocktail sauce, but they don't like horseradish, and they wanted to know what they could do instead. And so I'm doing a little testing. It's going to involve some hot sauce, ketchup, of course, a Worcestershire, some lemon juice, and I'm going to try and approximate the flavors of cocktail sauce without the horseradish. So that is something else that I'm doing this week, and I think those are all the recipes that I'm working on. I mean, there's always random testing that happens while I'm making dinner, that kind of thing. But the like focused, I'm in the kitchen during work hours, that is what I'm doing in the week ahead. As to what is going live on the websites, there's a new recipe on each site this week. On Cook the Story, we have a corn dip. I am obsessed with this. It's basically a combination of my favorite corn salad recipe with my favorite taco dip recipe. So the taco dip is that one where you mix together sour cream and softened cream cheese with taco seasoning, and then you put it in like a pie plate with lettuce and tomatoes and stuff on top. So the corn dip has that same base, the sour cream cheese, taco seasoning, or those spices, but with corn and then the other ingredients chopped up and added to it. It is wonderful cold with tortilla chips. It's also amazing warmed up as like a hot gooey cheese dip. So yeah, I just love it. Cannot wait for that to go live and to tell you more about it. And then on the Cookful, we have a new stuffed chicken breast recipe. Just a really easy weeknight stuffed chicken breast where you just like cut into the chicken breast, open it up like a book, put some cheese and like a spinach cream cheese filling, close it, a little breadcrumbs on top and bake. So really quick and easy, but still kind of like different, not just boring chicken breast for dinner. So that is what you will see live on the sites this week. And then as to what I am telling you about on this podcast this week, yes, of course, the corn dip and the stuffed chicken breasts are on the list. Also, the shawarma chicken bowls. I think I told you about these last week. You make this like chicken thigh shawarma, basically chicken with like shawarma seasonings, essentially. I do it in the air fryer, but you can bake it. And then the bowls, I'm going to give away too much, but you thin out either homemade or store-bought tzatziki or hummus with a little bit of water or olive oil, thin it out to make a dressing. And then the bowl is whatever grain you're using, or rice, lettuce, tomato, pepper, some feta cheese, that shawarma chicken shredded or chopped up, and then a drizzle of that sauce. It is so good. Oh, and tomorrow I'm telling you how to brine a whole chicken. You know how much I love brining, and it is a wonderful thing to make your roast chicken dinner better than ever. It will be a wonderful Sunday meal for sure. Okay, I will put the links to everything I've told you about in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD. And to get all the links and everything you are looking for the episode that went live on September 21st of 2024, if you click on that, you will get all of the information. I want to say a huge thank you to Renee Fuentes from Thai Caliente. Make sure you go check her out, y'all. And thank you for listening and for spreading the word about the podcast and about my recipes. I really appreciate all that you're doing. You're commenting on the recipes on my websites. I know you are. And you're telling your friends about the podcast. It is growing so much. Sharing my stuff on social media as well. I am Cook the Story everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. Those are my main places. If you're not already following me, follow me there. But I know so many of you are, and I really appreciate it. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. Have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.